Because we talk about, I always say the ark is the conception, the resurrection, the organization. And if you think you're one of ours, you probably are. So we deal with everything for the whole life of an individual with disabilities. We're also the organization that helped get a label on the side of a beer bottle saying drinking while you're pregnant would cause a disability. And this is involved in arranging for funerals and trust funds. So what we want to do now is get your opinions on what you heard today. Because the ARC was a founder of much of the system, we do get a seat at the table in any of the discussions. When they talk about certification, we're there. When they talk about special ed, we're there. When they talk about Medicaid and the Department of Health, we're there. And I tease people that my name is not Gary Thompson, M.E.D., Master of Education. My name at many of these tables is Gary Thompson, S.O.B. So, it is what we do, it's who I am. So, let's have a conversation. Can you go to the mic right behind so everyone can hear? And then what Dave and I will do is take your suggestions. We know the developmental disability profile sucks. We know the acuity assessment to determine day services sucks. We know both of those issues, but we've had them for 20 years. So we know those two major issues. We know that parents, if I live with my mom and dad, I'm at the lowest funding range. We know those things. But if you can help us with your opinions of what else we can do to help.
All right, so I'm going to add a little, I'll get you, I promise, I won't. Just real quick. So I want to add a little bit of, I guess, context behind what Gary's saying, and that we need you guys, right? So we do a lot of traveling the state, talking to families, talking to professionals about what it means to have a loved one with a disability, how do we support each other. It's not our job to make decisions for families. It's our job to educate and try to inform people of what it means when you have a waiver, what it means when you have placement in an ICF, which is an intermediate care facility. I figured you would remind me to say that. But I think we want to be able to carry back to the work groups what you guys want from a system. Saying that, it doesn't mean we're going to get everything that we think we need or want, right? You technically are dealing with Medicaid, which in a way is it's a welfare system. Let's just be honest about it, right? So, and we count on the federal government, and we count on taxes that generates that income base for the local levies and those kind of things. So, help us carry your message to the people that make those decisions so we can better support people, okay?
So one of the things we stress is because you all helped, because of the social media pages, we got a 38% raise come July. 38%. So we know that we have an effect as a disability community together. We need to take that again because we asked for 50 and we got 38. We got to go back. We've got 2 years to reinvigorate that movement to get up to a 50%. But now we also have to engage Washington because Medicaid is Washington. EBB is Washington. We have senators getting elected next year. We have a president getting elected next year. We can't, as a nonprofit, take positions on who should get elected. But we can and we want you to help us decide what we tell the people that are running for office. And we're going to be hopefully next year doing these sessions and inviting the candidates to have input. Okay, let's start with your comments.
Can you make it clear back to when we're doing recertification, for the date that they're supposed to ask for the $2,000 credit?
Yes, we will, and I didn't know that.
Because they're scrutinizing everybody.
So the follow-up, and the reason I didn't understand grandfather was you had to have, any new provider has to have 10,000 But you're telling me the state is saying anyone that renews their certification also has to have
Every
10,000.
renewal they're asking for this.
Right.
And it doesn't make sense when you're asking for 2,000, we could pay back that 30% time.
Right. Well, I know we have a large payroll, 10,000 wouldn't even,
Exactly.
it wouldn't need it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it wouldn't need it. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, for support for the VSPs as far as EBB goes,
Right.
you say that it's federal.
Yes.
It's a mandate that one day that they're gonna come back on us and say, hey, you've got to do this. But it's not accurate. Example, I go from one client to the grocery store for my next client because the grocery store is in between the two. Why should I drive all the way to his house just to turn around and come back to the grocery store? Yet I'm not gonna get paid eventually. I mean, I'm getting paid now, but eventually they're saying, you can't do that. He's a half an hour away. I can drive 10 minutes to the grocery store, then the next 20 minutes to his house. And they're telling me I gotta drive that 30 minutes first and then come back to the grocery store.
Right. No, we agree with you.
Are they working on that? Are they
No.
gonna tweak it?
What we got, right before the pandemic, we got our two senators at the time, Senator Brown and who was our other? Senator Portman, to try to introduce legislation in the U.S. Senate. The whole Ohio delegation said, this is wrong, and it didn't go anywhere. So we're going to try to get Senator Vance and Senator Brown to get involved again. One of the things to remember with EDB, the state is insisting that you document, but it's not tied to payment. They're just gathering data right now. So Ohio has not, eventually for the last 4 years, they've been saying it'll eventually, what they wanted to do was tie that EDV notification in with what you build. It's not tied together.
I know, it's never accurate.
It's not active. It's not active. Yeah.
I just want to add a little context to your question, though, and then maybe this will help when we're thinking about. It's similar in the sense that I drive to work, right? I drive home from work. I do not get paid or reimbursed for that. So I think that's what you're saying. They're not paying me for that first trip to go pick up the client, right? Because you don't get services until you're at his house, until you're providing services. I got it.
So we're also told there are just mistakes with EDV where some provider, agency or independent, might pull into the parking lot of an apartment complex and punch in, but never actually go in. So what they thought it was going to be was just an electronic time clock. But it didn't work out that way. So we agree with you.
If we're not providing the service, the family will complain, and, you know,
Right.
that's our guide.
Yes.
We didn't have to.
Yeah, no, we agree. Yes, ma'am.
Two parts. One, how do we get involved more than just giving our comments with our, when you're saying, coming up with these ideas of what to present? And then also the other part, I just want to make sure, and I'm sorry to keep repeating this, but this is on the table for us. I just want to make sure you're stating that if the agency came, I get the dates. The agency came into becoming an agency before that date in 2019, they didn't have to have it. Anyone that's certified after that as an agency has to have it. But when that agency that was certified before 2019 renewed, they have to have it?
I don't know. That's what I gotta ask.
So we need to, define that out, because that's what they're thinking, that they don't have to have it once they renew it.
Right, yeah. And Dave and I were both on the committee for certification at various times, and there was a real problem that organizations started up and then died within a couple months because they couldn't meet payroll. And you know what? It's hard enough to find staff, but if you didn't pay them even the first time, they're over at Wendy's or McDonald's. You know?
they got a payroll.
I think earlier, and I'll get you, I just want to add a little bit more. So earlier, somebody was talking about a few things about advertising against new jobs, right, and running ads. It's just gonna sound really terrible, but sadly, even, you can't, our jobs were so low paid, we couldn't get them posted on Ohio Means Jobs. So as we fight for these things, I kind of want us to take a complete kind of holistic approach as we get wages up, and as we recruit better staff, so we kind of all tied together, right? Even when you think of independents who don't have maybe healthcare insurance or workers' comp and those kind of things, how do we work together as a system to make those available for people?
So to stress, the Arc of Ohio represents people with disabilities and their families. We're not a trade association for providers, but we estimate more than half of the independent providers are also family members. So we cross over. Opera, for example, they're representatives from the Ohio Provider Resource Association in the back of the room. I would encourage you to talk to them about membership. We all are working together around the same table, but they're the provider experts. So when Dave and I are at the table, we are always advocating for independence. But we're advocating for independence because it's going to help people with disabilities and their families. We're the ones, well, and what about the independents? Are they going to get this too? So you can be assured we're going to continue to do that, but their specialty is providers. So, I don't have my glasses on, but I see Scott, he's really tall. Talk to them about participation there. That's where you're going to get, where these conferences talk about everything. At an opera conference, they talk about provider issues.
Oh, no, I'm good.
Okay?
Don't need my
I'm going to change things up just a little bit here. First of all, my name is Janet Hammond. For those of you who don't know me, I run the Ohio Shared Living Facebook group page. And I put papers on the table. Please feel free to join if you are an Ohio Shared Living provider. Gary, it's my understanding that we as Ohio Shared Living providers will have the opportunity to work through an agency.
Yes.
I'm just curious, and I want to know if, because I'm seriously considering it for myself, because I'm tired of doing the paperwork. I'm tired of the recertifications. I'm tired of the reviews. I'm tired of all of that. What can you offer me as the ARC agency to go under and be part of your agency as an Ohio Shared Living provider?
Okay, so shared living can be through an independent or through an agency. This is not an exact, but there's about a 15% difference between what an agency receives for shared living and what an independent provider receives for shared living. The Arc of Ohio is certified as a shared living agency. We've paid the fee, and our policy is, because there's about a 15% difference, we take 15% to do administration. Administration means we're the certified agency, so we're the ones they visit. They'll come to your house too, but they visit us to make sure that the paperwork is done. And then we have a contract with you. So our shared living providers, and we have, I think, over 100 now of shared living providers. We have a contract, just like you would with the state. Shared living providers through the Arc of Ohio receive a 1099, like you have with the state, but it's the Arc of Ohio's certification, and we pay you every 2 weeks, like a pay period, and it's through direct deposit. You're not covered by workers' comp, unemployment, and all of that. You're still self-employed. You're self-employed under the Arc of Ohio's umbrella, and you make about, it's $5 less a day.
With the new rate increase, it'll be $5. If I would go
$5
today,
less a day.
if I went today, it would be $3.46.
Yeah, right now it's at $3.46 a day different. Come January, it'll be $5 a day difference. But knowing you're gonna by July get a 38% raise, the county determines how much a shared living provider is gonna get. So we don't get involved in that. It's based on your developmental disability funding range and a crossover to a daily rate. So, we assume the liability as the agency. What I have to say, what we've decided is we don't match unrelated people. Everyone in our shared living program is related because we're a family-based organization. So it's all family. It's not, we're not gonna do like a foster care program where we try to match. Some of our families only work 5 days a week, and then they have homemaker personal care the other 2 days. Once the in-home residential respite comes into play, I don't know if we'll be the provider of that extra person coming in, but you would be given the opportunity to tell us who you want to come in. We also have a homemaker personal care program that we call Family Choice, where you tell us who you want to hire. I don't know if Amy Clausen is still here. Amy piloted it for us in Cleveland, where she actually put, I hope she's here, and it's all right for me to say this. Yeah, there you are. Amy and her son Timmy were our first Family Choice folks. And correct me if I'm wrong, but you just put a paper on your church bulletin board and say, you know my son, I'm simplifying. That's not you, that's some other mom. Sounds like you. You know my son, you want to work for my son. What we do is parents do their own recruitment, family members do their own recruitment. We make sure that whoever you recruited is not a felon, is at least 18. We have a training program, and then we employ them as a DSP, and you retain hire and fire authority. What families told us is they didn't like an agency sending someone into the house that they really didn't want in their house.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I'm going to add more context to that. So again, it's not our main mission to run a provider program. You got to think what the core values of the ARC has and will always be, and that is advocacy first, right? The ARC has a long history of creating programs because families come to us and say, what's working, what's out there available is not working for me. We want you to develop a new program. If any of you are familiar with even ARC Industries in Franklin County, that was started by the ARC of Ohio many years ago and spun off, and it's an employment piece through the Franklin County Board of Developmental Disabilities. So, yes, we do run some programs, but we are always going to be advocates for the person served first and foremost.
Let's get back over here.
Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty easy, to be honest.
Did I understand you that the county board sets the daily
That's what I'm
rate
gonna do.
for the shared living?
You have
So,
to wait.
I said that's not exactly the way it is. So, if
So
you
don't
look,
go home and call them.
no, what it is, it's actually in the rule.
If you
So,
over before the end.
if you go to the shared living rule, there's an appendix to that says, what are the daily rates for the developmental disability profile funding ranges? So the county board does the developmental disability column, you know, like the ODDG. And whatever the county determines your funding range is, that's what the daily rate is.
Okay.
Yeah.
My thing up here is not even so much a question, it's more of a frustration. We come from Steubenville, me and Donna, and our children are older, 31 and 30. And I hear a lot of talk, and have been reading with everything that's been coming out, about the rules for the minors.
Right.
And the whole time we have had a child with a disability, no one told us a thing about benefits for minors. So that little, kind of irritates me a little bit.
3
Not saying
years.
it's you guys, it's probably Jefferson County.
3 years it's been in effect.
When you're saying that you're all at the table, we're out by the tree on a picnic table, because Jefferson County gets nothing. I'm not gonna say nothing, I mean, if they get the information, they don't share it.
Right.
And that's very disturbing to think that you're here, everyone is here to help, but you're not helping if you're not giving us the accurate information. The other thing is, when we need a home modification, something done at home, they can't find anybody to come to Steubenville, Ohio.
Right.
Nobody wants to come.
But you can't hire just your old plumber and have them come and submit a bill to Medicaid. So nobody helps you with that either. Nobody says, well, let's see what we can do. Same thing with any type of procedure. Maybe, their eyeglasses aren't covered. You're paying out of your pocket. And it just gets really old. We're tired as it is as parents, and then you have to go battle all of this stuff that you've been, like I just had to redo my residency agreement, and I know you have to have it, I know it's a Medicaid thing, but when you're thinking of it as a parent, it's like doing your IEP every year. Every year, you've lived it for 30 years, you know the shape of your child, but when you sit down at that table and you have to check off those boxes and you have to answer those questions, it's like carrying it for the first time all over again. It's just repetitive year after year after year. When we know 100%, none of these children are going to change. They're going to be what they are. But yet, trying to get help for them is like we're trying to rob a bank. And that is where I'm so frustrated.
So how'd you hear about this meeting? Because we were just in Steubenville, and we have a meeting, we've got a regional office in St. Clairsville.
Yes, at the church.
Yeah.
Yes.
And there was a meeting in Steubenville last week. Dave and I are going back to Steubenville next month.
Monday.
No, we're going, is that Monday or is that St. Clairsville? We're going to the church in St. Clairsville Monday night, but then I think we're going to Jefferson County again.
Okay, well, I've been falling and I've broken all the bones in my body, maybe except for one.
Okay.
And so they have found that I have cervical myelopathy. And so I'm not getting around too easy as far as cars. I live in Racetrack.
Right.
So that's probably why we didn't make it to St. Clairsville. But even there, it's, it's a 40-minute drive down to St.
Do you
Clairsville.
get our newsletters on Friday?
Yes, I do.
Okay. So we're going to continue to do our weekly newsletter. Dave and I are on the road constantly. If you need us or want us to come to your area, call us.
Okay.
We'll be there.
Okay.
What we try to do with most families is say, find a place, let your friends know, we'll be there.
Okay. Because the other thing is that we always hear about the money that's there for whatever you need to do. And so you ask your SSA, and then your SSA says, no, you really don't have that money. So you never know what's really accurate. So you're just kind of always floating.
Do you know what waiver you have?
I know.
Oh, wow, you've got money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They always tell you.
So and I'm not saying you guys have, they've been good at putting stuff in, but now we're at a part where we can't get people to come to our home to even repair things that are already there. And I did want to give you a little piece of information, maybe you do this, but I found out this year.
People are so worried
If
about,
anybody
my limit is
has a
50,000.
spouse that is collecting Social Security, and they collected at 62, 65, 67. If the other parent is 55 years
What are you
old,
gonna do about it?
if they are the main provider of the child in question, they are allowed at 55 to piggyback off of that parent because they gave up their career to stay home and watch that child. So I don't turn 62 until November. I piggybacked as of January. So that's something of all of us that are getting older nowadays to know. And I only found that reading through the Medicare part online. And had I not read that, I would not know anything about it.
Could you repeat that?
We have a support group in Canton.
Okay.
Sharing Solutions. Beth over here. Coordinated. Beth is a parent, volunteer. They're actually doing a presentation with a Social Security representative on.
October, I gotta look at the date, it's on our Facebook page, but Robert Fenn from Social Security.
Okay.
He just deals with SSI and SSDI.
It's a really good presentation. I would recommend if you could.
Well, especially because Donna's husband had retired finally.
Yeah.
And so they had Marina, and all kinds of things were happening with them that they had no idea that they had to go and turn in and talk about and all this stuff. So as you get older and you start to retire, you kind of think that everything's going to stay status quo when it doesn't. It all changes at that point. So, now that some of us are getting closer to that age.
It's because we're great.
I thought it was something to know. Like I might be tax advice, I'm just saying, if you fall in that age range, call somebody, get on the web and look it up, because it is definitely a benefit.
So you're saying?
Yeah, so
No, in fact, I told Robert that was because a lot lot of our
We don't allow agencies in our
families are
Facebook page.
engaged
No.
in me.
So we
And
can't
we
help her. I'll
talked,
give her the
I said,
information, but.
Robert, this
Right.
next resolution, I need you to address that.
Yes.
He will address that.
Yeah, get the mic.
What?
You gotta get the mic if you wanna talk.
No, I'm just telling you.
I know. Yeah. You don't want that mic, do
A
you?
prime example was
Yeah.
Donna. She's younger than her husband.
Yeah.
She could have been collecting for the past 5 years, and nobody said a word. Not from Social Security, nothing.
Well,
So,
awesome, thank you for
Thank
that,
you.
thank you, appreciate it. Yeah, there are certainly shortcomings in our system as we talk about things like even, home mod contractors, they're not available. Most home mod contractors want 50% down to even start the work. Medicaid doesn't care about that. So there definitely are shortcomings in our system. But I do believe it falls upon all of us as a society to help each other and educate. So when an SSA in a local county does not know something, I feel like it's all of our jobs to help educate them. Because sometimes they're not getting that information from the state.
Call us and we help
Even though it has
educate.
to go, it has to have both names on it.
I can't keep talking without the mic. But call us, we help educate all the time.
Names on it. And
You-
the payment is
I always say getting a call from Gary Davis,
If she
like the
hadn't
superintendent of
had
schools,
both names on it,
telling
she's fraudulent.
So,
This child is.
Hello, I'm an independent provider, and I built a home. I built it.
That's why she.
I
that's
paid
why
for it
doesn't have
2 years ago.
What's
My
Social
mother's
Security? I went in
72
there
years old.
again, just to be
Taken
on
my
the
brother
board.
forever.
They
My brother's mentally and
they're just stopping
physically
her checks
disabled.
next month.
And
I
he's
take her
in that
checks for a
home.
whole year
But the only way I can work with
to
him
get that back pay.
is if I have another home or another apartment. So for 2 years,
Well, ma'am, it's like
I've not
this.
lived in my home that I
Right.
built,
said
that I
the
paid
the
for.
pay.
Because I can't actually
No,
bill
you didn't just pay her.
for taking care of him.
who told you
So let me
that?
get out of
The
here.
state. The
So-
state
I gotta get out
stated
of here
that
because
because
what
I
you're
am
saying
his
doesn't make
sibling,
sense to me.
I am not able to provide services and live in the same home.
No.
So
We got a sibling right here that's
that's
she's
in the
been
same
in the same
home.
home.
So I
But-
would still make the same amount of pay that I'm making now, and it's not, what, $20 a day or what have you.
So what waiver do you?
I owe.
No, so no. So,
Perfect.
so Janet lives with her sister and is the shared living provider for her sister.
Okay, yeah, they said I can't have the same address.
Yeah, you can.
You have to have. You have to.
Yeah.
Somebody doesn't know what they're talking about.
Okay.
This is the crap they do.
All right, and then I would also like to know when you will be going to like Washington and whatnot, because I think it's important that, it's been said that we're here to help people of all ages with all types of abilities to maintain their independence
Right.
at home by allowing them to control. And that's the key word, control. Who, what, when, and how services are provided to them. It is their right to decide if just for instance, my brother wants me to live with him and work with him. That's his right to make that choice. Because I'll be honest, there's only one other provider that comes into our home, and I've known her for 25 years. So I think it's important that when we are speaking to people in Washington, that we let them know that we don't need them to control our children or our decisions. We just need their support.
If you live with your brother in that home, under the current rule, you have to be shared living.
Okay.
But if your brother, come January, what we fought for is if your brother ever needs 2-on-1 staff, if your brother ever needs a wait staff, if your brother has what's called complex care needs, which is really physically disabled, or if he has behaviors, then you don't have to be shared living. Come January, you could be homemaker personal care and live in the home and get the same hours you get now.
Wonderful, thank you.
That's January. But you could have always been living in the
No,
home.
I-
So
no, I'm
what
not.
county is that?
Franklin County.
Really?
Something, there's gotta be something else. That is always.
What I'm saying is the exact, I wrote it down verbatim.
Yeah.
I had several meetings about it with the He's
So-
51.
Siblings and grandparents and aunts and uncles have always been allowed to do this. It was only parents
Yeah, no.
that
care.
Okay. Yeah, they were trying to say I
other
can't do
parents of
that.
minor children that had.
Okay.
Oh, then if you
Yeah,
want to
take
sit,
one of
you
our
know,
courts, call
grab
us.
me one if you don't mind.
Okay.
Talk it out, yeah. We're
No.
we're in Grandview.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thank
Sure.
you.
Wow. Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
You don't want to follow that? So I was curious with, I guess, are we still calling it Appendix K? Is that going to stay the name of it? As a parent, will it change any on paperwork side? Because it seemed like when I would fill it out before, it was always very, almost agency sided. As a parent, I was like, what am I going to do? So I was just curious as if that would actually, if there's going to be, since it's becoming permanent, is there going to be more of a parent-sided forms and that type of thing?
Yes.
Is your child under 18?
Yes, yeah.
It depends on what agency you work for.
Miss Janet, thank you.
Oh,
Oh, keep it.
now.
This
so
pen's all over the
what we
place.
do- We've got an attorney. We actually, this family choice program has become so popular, we're supporting 300 families now.
Yeah.
So it depends. There is this extraordinary care instrument the county's got to do first to see if you continue to qualify.
Okay.
It's based on that. If they say, is it Franklin?
I'm Delaware.
If Delaware County says you didn't go on extraordinary care, no, the paperwork would all be. But what was said, and I'm not sure they're going to be able to comply, is that the county board's got to call or visit you every 60 days.
They don't have enough staff for that.
No, that's what the county boards are saying. How are we going to do that? But we don't believe there'll be any new paperwork.
Well, I just always felt like logging in and filling it out, it always felt very agency, like, why are you asking me the questions to follow the ISP?
Oh,
when I
okay.
hate the ISP?
Because, and the state
And
makes it
the state.
very specific.
Okay.
They want to make sure you're not being paid to be a parent.
Okay.
You're being paid to implement the ISP, which typical parents don't have to do. So, yeah,
It just
that,
always felt redundant.
it does, yeah. You have to just document, and you have to do EPB,
Yeah.
yeah.
I want to add one thing to that. So I think I saw a few people carrying around the extraordinary care instrument tool today. I believe that's been updated and it's not been released for Medicaid yet. So don't go by the current paper someone has.
We've been really advocating for changes, because the younger you are, the more challenging.
Yeah.
If you're under 16 and under the current assessor, yeah. Yeah, you still have to document. I know.
I know, I was like, well, is it really worth the bell?
I know. I did diaper him today. They
Yeah.
want me to document that I diapered him today. I've been diapering him for a long time. Yeah.
And again, some of that stuff, again, is tied to federal stuff that's going on. So sometimes Ohio has a tendency to kind of layer on a couple additional things, and usually that's when we have to push back against some of those unreasonable, or what I think the young lady here, next on the mic over here,
Dumb question.
talked about unfunded mandates, right? We have a lot of administrative burden in our system, but yet that funding doesn't change necessarily.
And then just quickly, how long would you say your PDP program to get someone involved? Or the parent director, yeah, to find an HPC, so I'm the one not doing it. I've been curious as to what's your minimums or how long you're taking on average to get someone enrolled, or what the minimum is?
It depends on how quickly the person can fill out the paperwork and how quickly, yeah. So the county board has to authorize it.
Yes.
That takes some time. But while they're attempting to authorize it, the parent has to fill out the paperwork on their side. And then the potential employee has to fill out the paperwork on their side and get all the training, CPR, first aid.
Was it on?
We've tried, and it's,
Did you get the flyer?
yeah, like a fast track.
So you got
Like
my
I tried to get a college student to do it for the summer because they
Oh, you
don't,
went to
you know,
Facebook.
and it
Okay.
seems like by the
I'm
time
not
they
out of
actually
trust.
start the paperwork and things have
Yeah.
gotten dropped, and then next thing you know, we're like, well, they're gonna be wanting to do this.
Yeah, we've had people that said they wanted to do it, and then it took a year before they didn't follow through and do it. So it's not the same process with the state, it's all internal. Yeah, It's really kind of,
once your name
if it seems too long
You
and
can,
cold.
you can have private
Yeah.
settings. Anyways, my phone number is area code
Yeah. I don't have the CEO after my name for nothing.
516.
However, we do have to follow, make sure everything's in place to ensure the staff meet the requirements. Because again, for us, the focus should always be about the care of the person being served, right? And again, I fully agree in the fact that somebody should be able to pick who provides that care to them. That's what our family choice program is actually all about.
Message on the phone.
Okay,
We can
text.
Yeah, we can chat back and forth that way. I
My
prefer
daughter's
talking.
Ohio Trail
Easier.
provider for the
Yeah.
last 3 years.
Yeah,
She's
that's
21
fine.
years
Either
old.
way.
She attends college. She goes to Xavier University. So she is not cognitively delayed, and I feel like I'm in a minority somewhat because
I want to call you Monday.
she's very physically
If that'll be
That's
disabled,
fine.
but not cognitively. She's deaf and she has low vision, and she's also in a wheelchair and she cannot use her arms. And she has a ventilator and a trach to help her breathe, and she has a nurse with her all the time, or me.
And I can send you stuff and.
So physically, she needs 100% help, but cognitively,
Yeah.
she's
I'll do it that way, when I'm, but
Yeah.
as far as like,
Yeah.
And I'm just learning more, so she's trying
Just
to,
write it
she's
down for me.
2 years away from getting her bachelor's degree. She wants to be a paralegal. She has
Yeah, give me your phone number, give me your email, and,
studied
I'll send you
sociology
lots
with
of
a minor in
information and
writing,
stuff.
and
It's
she
not
does
that
her
bad.
own work on her computer with
It's
her
really simple.
touch screen keyboard, with her mouth sticks in her mouth, on her iPad, on her phone. She does her
Once you
reading,
know,
her
once you
writing,
get
she
it.
watches her videos with captions.
yeah,
The
because
school
what
has provided a lot of support for her
right,
to be in the
on Facebook, man.
classroom, but the student helper next to
didn't know
her,
too much
her
about it either, so,
ears and eyes, and make sure that
just
she's
went with,
catching everything, but and also a
Franklin
caption, so
County,
she's got a lot of support in
for the
the classroom.
back then it was, then,
And I
they
have a
said,
couple of questions, but a couple of
the girl
comments
might be
too.
really good, but I couldn't really catch one.
So she needs her Medicaid
Anyway.
to
She said you
live.
either do it, you're billing yourself.
She needs
or you
nurses
can
or
get paid.
very highly trained
I said,
people
I'll let you
to
do
live.
it, but
She's never was on SSI. My husband worked and made too much money, so she just lived with us. And we did not
that's
take
what
care of her.
I want to know where
so,
My husband died when she was 15, and I was 48, and he was 47. And we started getting
what you're
Social
doing.
Security.
You know exactly what
And
you get
when she
paid for, what
turned
you're not getting
18,
paid for.
her
Well, they
turned
miss,
to
you know,
SSI.
if they miss,
So she never got SSI.
if they
She
miss
got
a
Social
paycheck
Security,
or
SSDI,
something,
Medicare now.
or a day or
So
something,
she's,
how do you know?
right.
never was gonna be on welfare as far as I was concerned. And I looked into it and I got really frustrated just a couple weeks ago with the rules for her income level to keep her Medicaid. She asked before to keep her Medicaid, and she's working so hard to provide herself a professional career, so she doesn't have to work, but she still needs her Medicaid to survive. And I was really frustrated with all the whole thing, so I got on Shawan's County's website and shot them a 3-page opinion and tried to figure out why is this set up like this, and I'm sure 30, 40 years ago, she wouldn't have been able to do any job or education or anything, so she would have been solely relied on the state for her health. But technology has allowed her to live at home, out of the hospital with a ventilator, with a wheelchair, with her computers, with her ability to Google and the internet. Technology has allowed her to provide a life for herself somewhat, and I feel like the Medicaid system and the disability system has not kept up with that. And they need to separate out people who are disabled not from their own, not for any reason other than that's how they were born, and people who need Medicaid for other reasons.
Did anyone ever talk to you about something called Medicaid buy-in?
But there's limits to her income.
Medicaid buy-in allows her to continue to work. Her challenge will be, regardless of her diagnosis and all the other things going on, in the act of Social Security, if you're working, you're not disabled. And it's an old thing. But Medicaid buy-in, she might lose her Social Security.
I don't care, we don't care about that.
but she can keep her Medicaid by a program that's been in existence for over 15 years.
Isn't that tied to the income limit? I mean, if she makes $150,000.
What happens if she starts making $150,000, she pays a premium like anyone would do to stay on Medicaid.
But she still is limited, like her excess income has to go into an account, that's a Medicaid payback account,
No, it could go into a stable account
which is a Medicaid payback account.
upon her death. But
Why?
not,
Why?
well, because it's part of the federal law, so we gotta change that. And we're working on it.
That's my point.
But Medicaid buy-in will allow her to make,
I tried to go on Obamacare and buy her a policy
Facebook fan.
that covered healthcare needs, and there isn't one. It
no,
requires
because
her to-
Medicaid is the best policy
Right,
for
so
someone with those
She wants to
challenges.
buy her own policy, like everybody else, to cover her her healthcare needs.
Right.
But it requires her to be on Medicaid, and then it's gonna
So
require.
is it you just don't want her on Medicaid? Or,
I want her to just have healthcare.
Right.
That she doesn't have to turn around and pay back. What if she has kids and a spouse and she wants to leave an inheritance and own 10 houses
Right.
around the world? I mean, who cares what she wants to do with her money? Why does the government even need to let her?
right, because Medicaid is a part of the welfare system.
Well,
Yeah,
and
that's-
exactly.
that's-
I feel like she's disabled. I don't want, she's not unable.
Right, absolutely.
She's able to do things for herself.
So can we talk after? You gonna-
Sure.
Yeah,
My other thing is, I have found, my resource are nursing students that I train and hire to help me in my house when I don't have a nurse. We have nurses approved for 24 hours a day. We've never had nurses for 24
so,
hours a day.
do you know what, does she have a waiver?
She's on an IO waiver.
And she's
I'm
got-
shared living.
Oh, okay.
But I hire nursing students for 3 hours an evening, a couple evenings a week, to come in and do her medical care in the evenings, because otherwise I'm doing nursing care for free. In addition, they'll have shared living. And I'm a widow, I'm tired, and I don't want to do it all myself.
That's right.
And she's also gonna be, aged out of her nursing care come 22 years old in February, because we're at a pediatric agency. So we're looking for nurses and independent nurses, and I'm finding that there just aren't any to hire. And I was wondering what Ohio is doing to promote that as a career field for new nursing students coming out of nursing school, is to go into home care instead of the hospitals. I mean, they have to pay them competitively if we're gonna find any nurses who wanna do home care.
We did get those rates in place.
Right, and that's one of the unintended consequences of the big raise, is that 44% of our direct support staff are on Medicaid themselves. And some of our direct support staff have said, please don't give me a raise. If you give me a raise, I'll lose my Medicaid. And what you're paying me, even if it's $18 or $19 an hour, is not enough for me to pay for my health insurance. So please don't give me a raise. Or if I'm a nurse, they're getting a big raise too, but I can make double of that in the hospital. So I gotta raise my family and make $100 an hour.
The alternative for my daughter, if I can't keep her at home, which I'm trying my damnedest to do that, is to put her in an old person's nursing home. And that would kill her. And I feel stuck. I feel like, what am I gonna do?
We'll carry that on. We will, I promise.
So.
Thank you.
Pass that
Thank
on.
you.
So Shared Brown's office did not reply to me, but I gave him this whole,
Right.
she's not unable to do for herself. She just needs Medicaid or health care in order.
He just introduced legislation to increase the asset limit, but it's on SSI. And we're not sure how that will affect the Medicaid asset limit, which is still $2,000. So,
That's another whole other thing.
Yeah, it's complicated, yeah.
Becky, is your turn.
Yes, a couple things. One thing, everybody that's having trouble with your SSAs, I was told she could not be a provider. If it feels wrong, if you don't understand it, if it's just that, trigger something in your mind, remember these words, show me the rule. Always ask to be shown the rule. If they can't show you the rule, there is no rule. Okay, just remember that. So, and it also helps if you know how to find the rule.
Yeah.
The other thing, the rescue funds from COVID stuff, the leftover funds, you asked for ideas. That was on my Facebook the other night. What are you doing with that rescue funds?
Well, The department has already decided.
Oh, okay.
Because we asked quite a while ago. So, the department had sent in, just ideas to CMS, like last week, they got approval. So, it's like $56 million that the Department of DD has received. We actually got it, the state of Ohio got it in the middle of the pandemic, but the state legislature didn't release the money until the budget was passed at the end of June. And those funds have to be spent by 54 million, just in DD, every department got a big chunk of change. Those funds have to be spent before March of 2025. So the subjects of what they want to work on have been approved by the federal government. Our thought is the Department of DD will be sending out what are called requests for proposals. They already have some ideas, and they will start handing out the money in January of next year for a one-year grant of how to spend the money. Some of the suggestions are developing training programs for families on how to advocate for themselves. One of the suggestions is to develop a real provider search engine on how to match providers with people. But that $56 million basically has to be spent in 1 year. Yeah, go ahead.
So I'm familiar with some of the advocacy that's being done to create a standard occupation classification for DSPs, which I think is really important. I'm wondering if, when that's passed, is there any plan to give us sort of an official licensure, like other home health they do have? I would find that if we had some sort of a certification license, a badge that we could wear, it would not only help us, but it would help our clients, because a lot of places are recognizing that people have support staff. And in some of the places locally that recognize me, they don't even charge me anymore at movie theaters and things like that. And I just think if we had something that we could present to make us a little more official to more places, we might be able to find.
Yeah, I don't know if there's anything specific. A lot of discussion has gone around of, should we have a DSP 1, 2, and 3?
I just mean a certification, like a true license. We're certified, but we don't have any document that we can carry that says I'm a provider to anybody, or to show that we're actually official, I guess.
Yeah, it's been challenging because there just aren't many out there, and the ruling that agencies could hire 16 and 17-year-olds and now you don't need a high school diploma, and there's still a lot of debate on,
right.
Yeah, because we'll have our family meetings and I want this, this, and this,
right.
but we can't even find anyone without this, this, and this.
Right.
And it goes both ways. I agree with you. I think if you're a direct support professional, then it's a professional position. And professional, don't just give me the name without the salary, and don't just give me the name without qualifications to get that name.
Right.
So I think it's being discussed. I haven't heard anything where it's
That they're really good to do it.
Yeah.
The only other thing I wanted to say too is, since you're asking what could possibly be done with that money, is I really feel right now, and I know we've talked about it before, I just feel the laws are written right now in such a way that it prohibits independent providers who might want to advance their career and become agency owners. It just makes it extremely hard for us to do with that $10,000 business line of credit requirement specifically, because to get it, you have to have an operating business that shows cash flow and has some history before the banks will ever actually approve you for such a loan. And as an independent provider, obviously, our LLCs we create in order to apply do not have established cash flow. So the banks do not want to give us that line of credit. And personally, it's not that I have bad credit, but my credit that I do have is used because I've been working on a wage that is far too low for far too long, and I simply do not have that ability. So I would like to see some of that money used to help independent providers who otherwise qualify for agency ownership, like myself. I have a human services management degree. I would like to see that used to help us actually do it and overcome that hurdle that's been created for us in the policy.
Right. Now, I agree with you. I agree with you. New York just wanted to add something to be certified in another area. We got a surprise visit from the Department of Medicaid a couple weeks ago. And one of the questions they ask is, well, they asked Stu, how long have you been around? Well, 70-some years. Why are you adding this now? Because people said they needed this now. we had to, there were just a lot of, like, that's dumb, like, you know. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, go ahead.
Actually, piggybacking on what you were saying, why don't we have like a 2-year degree program at one of the universities? Can't some of that money that we have be put towards something like that?
And-
For a caring, a DD type certification that, or a piece of paper, and some training, because a lot of the providers don't train their folks properly.
One of the challenges with it is one-time money. It's gone after 1 year.
Yeah, but if the universities are, or like Clark State or those kind of places, if they start a program and it's successful, then it just can carry itself.
Right. It's even with raising to an average of 18 or 19, do I want to invest in an associate's degree to make $18 or $19? That's where we're at. When I know at 18 and no high school diploma, I can make exactly the same amount. So that goes into the discussion, should there be different levels? But with everything being home services, I'm working usually one-on-one with someone, and there's such I'm not giving excuses, it's just, okay. There just aren't enough bodies to work at McDonald's.
Don't we want to professionalize this a little bit?
Yes, yes. But what we've found is we can't find nurses, we can't find doctors. I mean, I agree, don't get me wrong, I agree with you. But at the same time, you could be 16 and you don't have so we're talking out both sides of our mouth, and that we want professional positions and we're willing to pay more, but we've lowered the expectations.
Yeah, I mean, it's not just this field, I mean, it's a lot of fields here.
Right.
But, I think that might help us move forward.
I agree.
Just something to think about.
Yes, thank you. I think we should retire to the lounge.
We'll just have drinks.
I'm trying to convince people in our office that we should have served mimosas and had a Bloody Mary bar this morning. We did the fall conference, we did the spring conference and had a cocktail party. We got the best reviews we've ever received for that cocktail party. Yeah, that's it. Go ahead.
Is there still time?
Yeah, there's still time.
I'd really like to talk about housing.
Okay.
Where children go when we die. And the only thing I've seen are parent initiatives. Is there any entity at all in the state of Ohio that's doing some planning?
I don't know if it's planning, but it has been suggested for this extra money to help with housing. I think
There's
part
no
of it,
affordable housing,
No.
at least where I am.
no, not for anyone. I live here in Franklin County. My house has gone up in price $200,000 in the last 5 years. I couldn't afford, I live in a very modest home. I could not afford to buy the house I live in now. Because so the other thing to consider is that what families are telling me when I talk about housing is not group homes. People are not necessarily thinking of congregate living when I pass. And so even the notion of where I would live, even if it's not.
Even in congregate living,
Yeah.
split 4 ways. It's not affordable.
No, it's
On
not.
the income.
Because what happens is, even if I can't afford it today, one of the guys moves out. If I couldn't afford it with 4, I can't afford it from 3. And CMS has decided that internet's not available through waiver anymore. I need a computer to talk, and I need
To pay bills.
but my waiver can't pay for internet, and I'm on SSI.
I'm just wondering where to go, who to talk to. The county board isn't interested in hearing anything right now. They're just trying to stay afloat, and I get it.
And what's scaring them is we're currently serving 100,000 people,
There's an explosion coming.
and there's 150,000 plus children in special ed on their way. we're gonna more than double in the next decade. And levies are either failing or you can't ask for additional tax dollars. So people are beginning to, the word sustainability comes up a lot.
I don't have a lot of hope for the future and for what happens to our children when we're gone.
We've got to do what we're doing differently somehow and figure it out. Yeah.
I'd be really interested in being part of any think tank or
Please.
group efforts.
We'll be putting that in our newsletter or our, please, yes. What county are you in?
Trumbull.
Okay, okay. Yeah, I told you I grew up in that area. Yeah, so still 3.5 hours, but yes.
Thank you very much.
Sure, thank you. Thank you for coming. Hey,
Hello, I'm an independent provider, and when the Medicaid gentleman was talking about highest shared living, and then us going out working with another client, he said that you couldn't do that.
I'm not sure that's an accurate answer
Yeah,
because I know it's happening.
Because everybody's doing it in my county.
Yes.
So I've kind of been, my stomach's been a little bit upset. Am I going to be paying back